Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a Death Domain Cleric Build guide in Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8. This is a part of the stress test, and with this subclass it's actually quite interesting because it makes use of necrotic damage, which typically is not that strong. However, it actually works well here because at level 6 we can ignore resistances to necrotic damage because there's a whole lot of them in the game. Now, one of the special features that we get from this subclass is the Reaper, which allows you to target 2 targets with a cantrip from the necromancy school, which includes things like your Bone Chill, your Toll the Dead, and the new cantrip Bursting Sinew here, which explodes a corpse. So you explode 2 of them at a time. It only does the 1d10 level damage at level 1. However, it can scale up and it is pretty strong. So for our cantrips, we're going to go with Bursting Sinew, Sacred Flame, because there are some targets that are weak to radiant damage that we'll use that against, and Guidance. So for this, we also get our choice in cantrip, and we get the domain spells False Life and Ray of Sickness. And for this, Bone Chill is a little bit better, 1d8, but it stops targets from getting healing. But Toll the Dead, we're going to go with the new one. For our ability scores, I think it's best to build around our dexterity pretty early on in the game. So we can go with something like this and then go 14 constitution. So something around like that. You can dump strength or you can dump your intelligence there. So 16 dex, 14 constitution, 10 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 10 charisma. Wisdom being our main spell casting modifier. So I'll cover gear for this build as well as show off combat near the later part of the video. So at level 2, we get our domain channel divinity from the touch of death. So whenever you hit a creature with a melee attack, you use your channel divinity to do additional necrotic damage. So melee attacks will also count inflict wounds, which is a necromancy spell that we can do a ton of damage with. So we're going to want to have this because this does count as melee. Does the 3d10 at level 1. Create or destroy water is a nice spell too if you got like a storm sorcerer or anyone that's dealing lightning or cold damage. If you don't, you can take that off. We want to have command. That's a very powerful spell. Healing Word is a nice bonus action. Then we also got like Shield of Faith and Guiding Bolt. So that's a good choice of spells. We can also obviously take in Bless because Bless is very powerful. And once we get ourselves to level 3, we get more domain spells. Blindness, which can blind a target. And we also get the Ray of Enfeeblement, which makes them deal half damage with strength attacks. And we get to choose a level 2 spell here. So Hold Person being a very solid one, as is Spiritual Weapon. At level 4 here, we do get to choose another feat. So this will give us the ability score improvement to take up our wisdom so we can prepare another spell. And we had another choice in cantrip here, so you can go with like Produce Flame. And for the spell that we'll take, and we're going to go with the Spiritual Weapon because that's really fun. Good bonus action. The version that gives you the Maul will give us the ability to set up disadvantage on wisdom saves, which can help us out with landing our Hold Person. We also get Animate Dead, so we can become a good Necromancer, and we get the Vampiric Touch, which can give us health back as we attack. And at level 3, we get the ever-powerful Spirit Guardians. There's also the necrotic version of this, which is cool, because now we ignore resistance to necrotic at our next level. So we're going to roll with that. I also like to take Mass Healing Word, because that can be a nice bonus action heal for the team. And then here at level 6, we get the Inescapable Destruction. You can ignore resistances to necrotic damage, which makes us pretty powerful. We're going to next take the Glyph of Warding, which we can use it to do a sleep or detonate, but also do an elemental damage type. And at level 7, we get ourselves Blight, which is a pretty strong spell. And Death Ward, which is nice to have. But also get level 4 spells, so we can take Guardian of Faith here, which can help with protecting our team a little bit further. It's not going to be one you're going to rely on often, but it's there. Now, level 8, we get our Divine Strike Necrotic, which deals additional necrotic damage on our attacks, which is pretty strong. And then we also get ourselves another choice in spell. You could go with like Banish or Revivify for the free revive. And at level 8, we're going to take an increase to our overall wisdom here just for better spell casting. At level 9, we get ourselves some more powerful spells. And we'll also get Cloud Kill. Little fun fact with Cloud Kill, if we cast Hero's Feast, our entire team won't get hurt by Cloud Kill. So you can all hang out and make the enemies run in and take the extra damage. We also get the Contagion spell there. And with this, I think Flame Strike and Insect Plague are best. Insect Plague is great crowd control because it slows everyone down and makes them take piercing damage. Kind of similar to Spike Growth, but a little bit more damage. At level 10, we get the Divine Intervention. We can use that to get a cool weapon, or certain fights are beneficial to use that because of the healing that you can get from it. We also got like Mass Cure Wounds or Planar Binding. Planar Binding can be kind of nice because we can make a otherworldly being our ally for a short period of time. However, once we get to level 11, this is where we got what we really want with the Planar Ally spell. Very powerful. And then we also swap that off and take like Blade Barrier there. And Harm is also not a bad spell, which can reduce the target's maximum health points, doing a 14d6 of necrotic damage. So that is actually a pretty nice spell to take, which is what we can take with our level 20 here. So we'll go with that. And for our feat, a +5 to initiative can work very well. You can also go with like the Spell Sniper, which will give us increased critical hit chance on our attacks, which is kind of nice. Warcast will also give us the Advantage on saving throws, a whole concentration, and we can do shocking grasp with a target that moves away. We can also go with something like the in another ability score improvement, take over like Constitution or Dexterity, or we can go again. Alert is probably the best choice here for better initiative. Going first can make a big difference here. So I guess when it comes to the gear that we want to be using here, there's a few really great options. So my personal recommendation is to take out and use one of these staves that give you like a free cast. So you got the Staff of Spell Power here, which gives us the Arcane Battery. We can use that to summon our planar ally. Now the Cambion makes the most sense here, but the Genie is probably the strongest because of its pushback with a Thunder Wave, because you can teleport it around and use the pushback. So we're gonna go with that there. And then we're gonna swap out and take the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, which is very powerful here because this basically, when we take out an enemy, so creatures will have disadvantage on saving throws against your necromancy spells, huge. And then whenever we take out an enemy with a spell, we can absorb its life essence and we can use that to cast another spell, which you're going to see is pretty crazy. And we're going with the Hood of the Weave for our hood here, or for our helmet here, for the increased spell save DC, Cloak of Protection for better survivability. Now, when it comes to the armor, we don't get medium, or we don't get heavy armor proficiency. That's why I went with a higher dexterity and went with a medium armor. So we can get a nice 26 armor class with the Armor of Agility. You can go with some other options here if you find something a little bit better, but this will give us the highest armor class and survivability, and we can also stealth it up a little bit. Also, some kind of funny, you can use the Armor of Sporekeeper to increase overall necrotic damage. Not worth using though. Also, the Helldust gloves kind of fit thematically. This gives us a bonus to our spell save DC and gives us fire damage on our attacks. We're not going to be attacking too much, but you know, sort of like the Gemini gloves, you want to swap it up and use it in a cantrip on another target that's not our normal ones here. So you also got that option. We can also go with the Gloves of Dexterity, which would boost our armor class. Then we could dump our Dexterity. That's also a really good choice because there's nothing like pressing that we need. If you really want to do radiant damage, which is not the focus of this, you got that as well. They're luminous gloves. But I do think that going with something like this can work well. Whatever you got early on in the game, like the ones that are going to block a target, the Gloves of Missile Snaring here. This can stop ranged attacks, which can be kind of nice for protecting the team early game. The Evasive Shoes also for the increased armor class. If you got the Boots of Story Clamor, you can stack Reverberation if you inflict a condition on a target, which we can do that with our build. And also if you get the Lithid ability Drain, that can also stack that. I went the Amulet of Greater Health to give us 135 health. Crypt Lord Ring just makes a whole lot of sense here for the free Create Undead. And then also the Ring of Protection for increased armor class. However, there are a few different rings that you can use early game for increased healing, so you can go with that, like the Whispering Promise if you want to focus more on healing. And we also go with the Viconia's Walking Fortress, and I like the Hellrider Longbow for the increased initiative that we get from it. So 26 armor class, not too bad. This is what it's going to look like in combat. So I guess to start things off, going with like Insect Plague can be a nice way to set up crowd control if you know you're getting into combat. But also Spirit Guardians is obviously a very powerful spell. The Radiant one's going to have more benefits like applying Radiating Orbs. However, we're all about the necrotic damage. So we got our necrotic damage spells here. We also blow up to the Bursting Sinew and do a couple attacks with that. You also got like the Glyph of Warding, which you can use as well to stack up and deal a little damage. But we're going to first start off with an Insect Plague here, which is just going to be good for our overall crowd control. So I'll drop that down to get our combat started and get right into things. Now, a cool thing is we got the ability to use a cantrip on 2 targets, so we're gonna go ahead with using that just to show it off first. So you got like the Toll the Dead. All of these targets have taken extra damage, so we can apply the Toll the Dead and get that extra damage off on them. So we're gonna want to use this on any spellcaster because they're gonna try and counterspell, as you can see there. We don't like counterspell around here, so what we're gonna do is now drop a I guess we can go with a dropping a Maul on this target here, because they're stopping us from casting spells, so we want to take them out of the equation as much as possible. So I guess we'll just go right here so we get them pulled into the Insect Plague as much as possible. So the entire reason that we use the Genie is because we can get it into a good position to then go ahead with the this attack here and knock people flying. So it sometimes does require a bit of positioning to find the most optimal angle, send them flying. Unfortunately, that's going to hit my character, so you got to be a little bit mindful of where you're moving with it, but you want to try and line it up so that you can see there. We can knock him off the edge with that. Unfortunately, he saved on it, so that was not great, but that's the reason we choose that one. So this is where we get to show off the cool ability of our Channel Divinity. So we can upcast our Inflict Wounds to deal a little bit more damage. So if we wanted to go like a level 3 version of this, 5 to 50 damage. But then whenever we attack with this, we got the Touch of Death, which we're going to add +5 and then a +2d12 necrotic damage. Not a huge amount of damage, but it's enough sometimes to take out a target, like you can see there. So that's worth doing in my opinion. But you can see we got a lot of enemies all in that area there. So whenever you see a group of enemies, sometimes you can get really lucky and hit 4 of them with a single divine strike. So we're gonna roll with that because that's pretty powerful. Nice bit of extra damage in a large area of effect. And since our maul got taken out here, what we can do is we can summon in another one. It's good for drawing aggro away from your team because the armor class on that's going to be lower, so it just makes other targets hit it more. And then you also got the consume life essence too, which is pretty fun, so we can use that on our next turn to give ourselves an extra spell because we took out someone with our staff there. So I got ensnared here as the genie, but as you can see, we can hit 3 targets with our thunder wave, so we may as well do that and hope, yep, we finally knocked one off the ledge. That's perfect. So that's nice, and then you can actually teleport around with him, so I'm just gonna leave him there. He's pulling aggro pretty well, so we like that. So again, you got that consume life essence, which you can then use and give yourself a free cast of a necromancy spell, which you can upcast inflict wounds, which will do a devastating amount of damage. So yeah, we probably won't even need to use the touch of death there with that. Yeah, 44 damage. That's the nice thing about the Staff of Cherished Necromancy. You get yourself a nice free cast. Unfortunately, we don't have the Circle of Death because that would have been perfect here, but yeah, we got, again, multiple targets in this area here, so if we can hit multiple of them at a time, that'd be perfect. We also got the other spells like the Bursting Sinew here, so we can use this to explode a couple corpses. I guess I'll just do that because this is pretty funny to explode 2 of them at the same time, so show off what that ends up looking like. Then that took out both of them, so that actually worked out well in our favor. Yeah, it's always fun whenever something like that can end up working out properly. And with a concussive smash from our spiritual weapon maul, we can possibly daze a target, which will mean that we can land hold person in command much more easily. So we dazed them. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So since this target is dazed, we actually have a fun little thing we do since we have insect plague up, is we can go with the command approach. So whenever we hit that, it's got a 75% chance of landing, not super high actually. Now with the command approach, they're just going to walk into that, so we don't have to worry too much about them. They're just going to harm themselves, and then we can go ahead with our other attacks like the blight or harm spell. So we'll just do harm because it's a level 6 spell. We haven't used that yet, so that'll reduce their overall maximum health points. Not crazy, because if they're already hurt, they're just going to lose the health, and you see there they now have maximum health, so that actually makes it so that Toll the Dead doesn't do as much damage. Kind of funny little thing there. So here we have it. They just walked through and they took the damage there, which is perfect. And then we can finish it off like, unfortunately you can't target 2 of the same with this cantrip, but Blight's actually not a bad spell because it's going to deal a decent bit of damage, and we ignore any necrotic resistance, 37 damage there. So yeah, and we got our life essence back too. Now, this is the Death Domain Cleric in Baldur's Gate 3's Patch 8 stress test. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.